students are coming into this school year with some remote learning experience after classes shifted online back in the spring. Now, with the new school year beginning, we want to hear how students are feeling about returning to virtual classrooms. Joining us to talk about that is Cole Songster. He's a senior at Grant High School. Cole, good morning. I appreciate you getting up early with us. What time would your alarm for school normally go off?
Well, for me, I take the bus normally, so it'd go off around 5:45, not too much later than now.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad we didn't roust you too early. So technically, the first day of school starts here in Portland today, but as a senior, you don't start classes until tomorrow. How are you feeling about the first day?
I'm excited for it. There are a lot of classes that I forecasted for that I'm excited to start, and even though this will be strange and kind of different, I want to see how they are and how it goes.
So you and students all across the country really did distance learning back in the spring. Do you feel a little more prepared for it now than you did back then?
Yes, to a degree. Back then, it was a lot more low energy, it felt like, for everyone. Whereas now, it feels like there's more of a desire to try to make this as similar to school as possible, which I think brings up my motivation and that of everyone else who's involved.
Yeah, because it is the new normal. You're right. You got to embrace it. So you can't physically be at school right now, obviously. How are you and your friends keeping in touch?
Through social media and texting them. I also have the benefit of I do a lot of extracurriculars, and teachers are trying to keep those going. So I've been involved in helping plan with other students, and I'm trying to answer their questions and just reach out to them for things like clubs.
Nice, that's great. So a big part of senior year always is planning for college and what comes next after high school. What are you thinking as you look ahead to next year?
Well, it's a bit frightening because, I've never done all of this before, and now I'm doing it in a time that's both different and kind of scary at times. But I'm just mostly hoping that by the time this year is over and the time we're heading towards college, things have gotten to a degree better so that I can enter college in a relatively more normal setting.
I remember when my daughter graduated, I stopped asking kids, what are you going to do next year? Because there was a lot of anxiety under normal circumstances. Do you see that in your friends, that they're a little more anxious, and how do you guys deal with that?
I was actually talking with a friend of mine about that yesterday, and I think it varies from person to person. For me, what's often helpful is I talk to other people, because if I'm anxious, I'm sure there are other people who are as well. And I'm a very people person, so it helps to just listen and talk with each other.
Cole Songster, a senior at Grant High School, thank you so much for being here and talking with us, and best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, with the new school year starting, we wanted to hear from students and how they're feeling about returning to the virtual classroom. Joining us to talk about that this morning is Rye Sholin. She's a senior at St. Mary's Academy right here in downtown Portland. Rye, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
So let's dive in. Just tell me, how are you feeling about classes starting this week?
Oh, I'm pretty excited to see all my classmates and my teachers, even if it is through a screen.
So earlier this year, I hear that you co-founded the Portland Student Pandemic Response. Can you kind of explain what inspired you to do that and how it's helping the other students?
So earlier in April, I saw a lot of local aid organizations who are trying to help certain Portland communities that were negatively affected by the pandemic. And at the same time, all my classmates and my peers were sitting home, like dyeing their hair and doing TikTok trends with all this extra time and energy on their hands. So I wanted to find a way to help connect the students with all their time and energy and help them find ways to give back to the Portland community in need of extra help right now. So me and a group of my friends we created a website called the Portland Student Pandemic Response that connects local students to service opportunities that are hosted by local aid organizations. We also had an adjacent summer program where 40 students came together and produced over 2,000 hours of work and created 7 service projects, including fundraisers, local events, and Zoom events open to the Portland student community.
That's awesome. I know St. Mary's is really big on service, so that's brilliant. You can't obviously physically be at your school this year, at least not yet. So how are you keeping in touch with some of your friends?
Well, we're texting and going through group chats as always, but since these tools like Zoom calls and Netflix parties are being popularized by school and other things right now, we've been using those to create new ways to hang out virtually, which is pretty cool.
So I know you talked to our reporter Christine Pitawanich and you told her that you haven't been able to take your SAT or ACT yet. How's that affecting applying for college?
Well, it's a lot better than I expected. I was worried that might detrimentally affect my application to schools that I was really looking forward to applying to. But I know that a lot of colleges are making allowances for the fact that students aren't able to access these tests like normal. And so it's definitely changing a little bit of how I'm structuring my applications and the time I'm dedicating to different parts. But I hope that in the end, it'll be okay.
Crossing our fingers for you. Rice Sholin, a senior at St. Mary's. Again, thank you so much for being here this morning. Best of luck in the future to you.
Thank you.